Alright guys, measurement of economic performance, video 2.1, the circular flow. Alright, there we go, sorry about that. Alright, we have a few terms here, so we're talking about basically how we measure how much is produced in an economy. So the next video we're going to get into gross domestic product, GDP. For now we're going to start off a little bit more basic than that. So we have something called national accounts. And what national accounts do is they keep track of flows of money between sectors of the economy. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to see where is money going, how is it being spent, who's it being spent by, what are they spending it on, and so that's what we have national accounts for, is that they do just that for us. More specifically, so we have a specific example, and this is going to be the circular flow diagram. This is the simple circular flow diagram. There is a more complex one later on. It is simply a simplified model of the macro economy. You do want to be able to draw this, to reproduce this. More than likely, you'll mostly be asked questions that are asking you which direction are things flowing. So we have, if you notice here, we have a few basic things. So let's start with the top and the bottom. We have two groups. We have households and we have firms. Okay? And then we have two markets on the right and on the left. On the right is the factor market, and on the left is either called the product market, is usually what I call it. This particular image calls it the market for goods and services. So you should also probably put that in parentheses when you draw this, reproduce it for yourself. You want to know that product market and the market for goods and services, that's the same idea. Okay? Now we notice here we have things flowing in opposite directions. Let's start with the easy one. On the outside, we have money. And money is flowing from right to left, all the way around. So households are spending money at the product markets. That money then goes to firms. Firms spend that money in factor markets, and that money goes to households, etc. Now, what's important to know is why is the money flowing in that direction? Well, what are they getting in exchange for that money? So here's the basic idea. Households, so these are questions that you'd be asked. What do households supply on the circular flow? Households supply the factors of production. Okay? So we sell our land, labor, and capital to firms. So when you have this, so notice at the top you have households, and then coming out to the right is factors. That's the factors of production. So households, that's individuals, people, families. We sell the factors of production to firms. So that's the factor market. The factor market occurs where we sell, where households sell the factors of production to firms. That's what happens in the factor market. So then the firms, they then have the land, labor, and capital. And what they do with that, and what workers do at the firms, is they then create final goods and services. So they take the land, labor, and capital, and they use it to make something that we then buy. So they produce or supply goods and services to the product market. We then, households, people, we buy those final goods and services. So again, we have this whole flow, and that's essentially what's happening, what just was described. Households supply factors of production. In exchange, we get paid. So we sell our land, labor, and capital at the factor market, and we receive money in turn for that. The money that we receive for selling our factors of production, we use to buy final goods and services in the product market. Okay? If we flip it and look at it from the other angle, firms are buyers of the factors of production, so they pay for it, so they spend the money, give it to households in exchange for those factors. What firms supply is they supply final goods and services on the product market. Okay, so again, you might need to look at that a little bit more, but that's a simplified version of the macro economy. So now we're really defining each of those terms individually. Households, they are individuals or groups who share the same income. So that's all a household is, pretty simple, straightforward. A firm is an organization that produces goods and services for sale. We typically call them companies or corporations maybe. In economics, we're going to use the term firm. Okay, so a firm is an organization that produces goods and services for sale. They do that on the product market. Households buy stuff on the product market. Okay, and actually that's what this is telling you now. So really that slide a couple times ago described everything that's in this video apparently. Product markets are where goods and services are bought and sold. So again, what you need to know is that Firms are the ones supplying the product market. Households are the ones buying stuff in the product market. On the other hand, the factor market, like I described earlier, that's where resources, especially capital and labor, are bought and sold. So those things are possessed by us, by individual people. We possess the land, labor, and capital, especially capital and labor, our efforts, our work, those things. And in exchange for that, we get money. So firms demand or buy the factors of production, the resources, households supply them. And this has been a LaMoney Production.